Hi friends, welcome on YourPedia, the platform where you are watching the videos for Airport Authority of India Operations Manager and Junior Executive. And this video is related to General Principle of Business Administration. That is a topic in your syllabus, and this is the second lecture for that. So Airport Authority of India, these are the number of vacancies, lot of seats in Airport Authority of India for managers, that is civil, electrical, and so many other, and operations also, manager operations, and junior executive operations. These are the number of seats and vacancies. So YourPedia is providing you the module for that. So for manager there is a job experience requirement, but for executive there is no such job experience requirement, and last date to apply is 7th of September. So we are still in August. 7th of September is the last date to apply, and after that you can get your exam very quickly. So general principle of business management, that is a topic in paper 2, part B. 12 questions will come from there, and this is a very simple topic, not difficult at all. So these are part A, part B topics. Principle of business management, we have couple of topics, friends. So first lecture was what is management, how do we define the management, and today's this second lecture is what do we mean by principles of management, and what are the various elements and significance of principle of management. So when we say principle, like whether management is a science or it is art, so last lecture maybe we have seen it is both science as well as art. It is art because creativity is required, it is science because yes, there are certain rules which we follow, and there is a conciseness and preciseness also. There is certain things which uniformly we follow, so there is a science also, art also. Today we'll in this lecture study what is elements and significance of principles of management, this management principles. So management principles, how it all evolved, how it all went, principle, this all principles, how it all evolved, that is something which we are going to discuss. So principles are basically nothing but general propositions. These are general propositions which are applicable when the condition or situation comes. So basically principles are developed on the basis of observation, experimentation, and personal experience. So you know principle of science also. So Newton was sitting, and when apple falls down and a law of gravitation comes out. So these kind of things, right, when you observe your own experience and you see the things happening, that becomes the principle or law. So principle of general administration are created something like that. It is through the experience, it is through the personal experience, it is through the observation, it is through the experimentation. You do the experiment also. That is how these principles of the management are formed. So how they are basically derived, and what is the effective way of using these principles. So management, as we discussed, is both science as well as art. We have discussed in the previous lecture. Management is science because yes, like science also, in the science also there are principles, there are laws, there are theories. In management also there are laws, there are theories, there are principles. Art because creativity, subjectivity. So in this case also there is a creativity and subjectivity, because not in every situation same law or principle of management will work. In certain situation one will work, in another situation another will work. So not in all the situations same principle will work. So these principles basically these principles are used in the situations, and these are basically the principle which make any subject as genuine and authentic subject for academic interest. So if you have principles, you study that subject. Now principles are guidelines how to do something. So these principles will help the manager to take the decision and to manage the things, right? So they are the guidelines. So these also denote the cause and effect relationship, that if you do this, this is the effect, this is the cause, this is the effect. So if you do this thing, this is the outcome. Function of management we have discussed in the previous class: planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling. These are the function of the management, and these are the actions which manager will take. These are the basically functions which manager will take, and these principles help the manager to take the decision when he is performing these functions. So basically the principles are the guidelines. Principles are the guidelines to do some particular action or to do some particular work. So whatever functions even manager is performing, So there are some principles behind those functions which manager is doing. So these are basically how the principles evolved. So principle evolved through observation, through experimentation, through personal experience, and these are the basically guidelines which help you to take decision, to act. These are the things. Now summary is, principles are general guidelines, they are not fixed rule. General guidelines, because in certain situation this principle may work, in another situation it may not work. That is the, these are general guidelines. And in the exam direct question comes, which of the following is true related to principle of management? So they are general guidelines, they are fixed rule, they are as fixed as the rule of science? No, something not like that. These are developed through what? Experimentation or observation or your own experience, or all of them? All of them. Management is both science because it has principles, and also art because creative. Principles follow cause effect relationship, and this guide managers when the manager is doing planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling. These principles manage, guide the managers. Make the management a learnable and teachable discipline. So if there are principles, then only you will study. What people are studying in MBA, when you are doing MBA, what are you studying there? In that MBA class, in that particular class, you are learning these principles only. That is how it goes. Now, what are the elements of general principle of business administration? So your topic is general principle of business administration. What are the elements of that? So first element is universal applicability. So remember these headings, because in the exam direct question will come, what are the elements? So these headings will come. So first heading is universal applicability. Universally they are applicable. That means to all kind of organizations. If there is a principle, so for any kind of organization that will be applicable. Whether organization is business or non-business, small or large organization, public or private organization, manufacturing company or service company, whatever organization it is, principles are applicable. Their application varies according to organization's nature, size, business activities. So depending upon the situation, the managers will adapt these principles to suit different situations. To give you example, principles of division of work. Now there is a principle of division of work. Like, so work is divided. Now one fellow is doing another work. In the typical organization, marketing is done by one department, then sales, then HR, then production, then design. I mean, different work. So division of work is a principle of management. So all the work should not be done by the same person. Work should be divided, and then specialization comes. So division of work is in all the organizations. So that is true. So that means universally applicable. So if there are principles of business administration, they are universally applicable. Second element, general guidelines. They are general guidelines and not fixed or ready-made solutions. So managers, when they are applying their management rules or something, the managers will know these are the principles, but blindly you cannot apply these principles. They are only guidelines, but you have to use your own knowledge, your own background, and you have to see the situation before implementing this. Guidelines है वो blindly follow नहीं करनी है, उनको situation के हिसाब से follow करना है. You have to see the situation as per the circumstance, as per the situation. Right? So they are very complex and depend upon many factors. Cannot be like you cannot use the same principle in two different situations. Maybe different situation require different set of principles or different set of decision. So general guidelines, then they are by practice and experimentation. So your collective experience, that manager is sometimes you say though he's a very experienced manager, because many things you will learn with experience. These will not come automatically to you. With passage of time, with experience, you learn it. So you become expert with experience. So principles are there in the books, management theories they are written, but you need to basically understand, and you need to, through your experience, learn these things. Right? So experiment is very, very important. Flexible. Principles should not be rigid. They are not rigid. There is a flexibility, and some flexibility in the hand of manager. Depending upon the situation, they change it. So that is a discretion of manager. Degree of basically centralization, decentralization, how much power should be delegated, how much power should not be delegated. Sometimes chief executive officer will not delegate the authority or power or responsibility. Sometimes he will take entire thing to his hand when he's to run the show things properly. So if the manager finds that the workers are skilled, they are capable, they are responsible, he will delegate. But when he finds no workers are not very serious, sincere, or they are not very knowledgeable, then he will not delegate the work. So that depends on that. So mainly they are behavioral. Management principle influence the behavior of people. Therefore, principles are mainly behavioral in nature. They are not basically, you need to see that principle are to deal with the human being. So there's human and material resource in the organizations. These are basically being used. So some kind of understanding of the people with whom you are dealing, so that always is to be considered. This is not blindly you have to use. It is not like science principle where it does not depend upon the person or individuality. Management, you are managing the resources. Human resource is one of the resource, material, manpower, machine, different resource, and management is all about optimum use of these resources. So when you are dealing with the human being, behavior comes into picture. So these principles basically are behavioral. Cause and effect relationship exists in this. So they can be used in different situations, they can be used in similar situations, and there's always a relationship between cause and effect relationship. You can find it out. So they are not perfect, they are basically not like 100% the same effect will come. When you say cause effect relationship, that means yes, there is a relationship which is existing. I give you example. When you increase the salary, person gets motivated or person starts performing good, maybe, but that is not always true. In some case it can work, in some case it may not work. When you give more comfort in the organization, performance will increase, productivity will increase. It may not work always. So they are cause effect relationship is there. Like when you give money, so people start behaving nicely, or there's an effect of that. When you give comfort, there's an effect of that. But it is cause effect exists, but cause effect exactly is the same, it is not true. So yes, cause effect relationship exists, but it depends upon the situation. So principle are depending upon the situation. Contingent means all the principle of management, when you implement these principle of management, these depend upon the situation. Situation is very, very important. Application of principle gets changed upon different situations, right? So these are situational dependent. Now this table you please see, friend. This table is very, very important. This table tells you about these all elements which we have just now discussed, and these are important principles for us. Universal applicability, general guidelines, practice and experimentation, flexible, behavioral, cause and effect, contingent, these all things. So whatever we discussed, I'm giving you in the form of a small table. So universal applicability, applicable to all type of organization. General guidelines, they're not fixed rule. Practice, yes, these depend upon experience, practice, observation. Flexible, they can be modified depending upon situation. Mainly behavioral, deal with the people. Yes, cause and effect relationship exists. Contingent, depend upon the prevailing situation. Now significance of principle of management. So significance is from the utility, useful insight to behavior and influence the managerial principles. So the significance of these principles are dependent upon the utility. So what is the significance of these principles? See, if there are principles, these are the guidelines to the manager. If manager is to manage the things, he should have some guidelines, he should have some principles which he is following to manage the things. So the most important significance of the principle is manager को help होता है manage करने में. If principles are there, manager will manage things properly. Like if these principles are there, and I told you these are not very rigid principles, they depend upon situation, they are contingent, cause effect relationship होता है, experience से you learn it, but some guidelines are there, some input is always there. That is the reason you learn all these things in the management class, in the MBA class or something like that. So everything which is you see around you, everything which you observe in the organization or otherwise, there is a principle, there is some kind of rule behind it. You need to understand that rule. मैनेजर को एक यूजफुल इंसाइट मिलती है इनटू व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, सो रियल वर्ल्ड सिचुएशन. सो सम इंसाइट मैनेजर गेट्स अबाउट द रियल वर्ल्ड सिचुएशन. He learns from his mistakes, so that he does not repeat the mistakes. It increases his efficiency. So yes, principles का सबसे बड़ा जो significance है, that is it helps managers. It helps managers to manage the things. Now, as I told you that management is all about optimum use of the resources, and resources are limited. And I told you resources are manpower, machine, material, raw material, money, right? So method or process, these all resources. I am to optimally utilize these resources to get maximum output. So if there are principles, then I can optimally utilize these resources. Wastage is there. If principles are not there, I am doing trial and error, then certainly there is going to be wastage. So principle of management limit the boundary of managerial discretion. So if manager should have manager has a discretion, he can make use of discretion, but he should also work within a limit. So that limit is drawn by principles. These principles will always put some kind of limit on manager, so that he basically is working within a boundary of these managerial principles. He should not work on personal prejudice or biases. He should also follow some rules. So just imagine there is no management principle. If there is no management principle, the manager will be doing biasing, right? So think of why do we need manager. एक शॉप के ऊपर जो एक कोई दुकान चला रहा है वो मैनेजर नहीं है, तो उसके डिसीजन विल बी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम मैनेजर. मैनेजर इज अ प्रोफेशनल. पहली क्लास में हमने ऑक्यूपेशन और प्रोफेशन के बीच में डिफरेंस पता किया. ऑक्यूपेशन एंड प्रोफेशन. मैनेजर इज अ प्रोफेशन, दैट मींस ही इज फॉलोइंग सम रूल्स, सेट ऑफ रूल्स. उसने पढ़ाई की है, उसने एक्सपेरिमेंट किए हैं, तो दैट इज व्हाट रूल्स. साइंटिफिक डिसीजन, देयर हैज टू बी सम लॉजिक, सो रैशनल बिहाइंड योर डिसीजन. जो भी डिसीजन आप लेते हो उसके पीछे लॉजिक होना चाहिए, रैशनल होना चाहिए. इलॉजिकल डिसीजन नहीं होने चाहिए, तो इरेशनल नहीं होने चाहिए. सो ऑब्जेक्टिव डिसीजन होने चाहिए. और सिचुएशन की ऑब्जेक्टिव असेसमेंट ऑफ सिचुएशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, दैट आई एम मेकिंग द ऑब्जेक्टिव असेसमेंट ऑफ द सिचुएशन. दैट इज हाउ इट हैज टू बी. तो साइंटिफिक डिसीजन होना बड़ा जरूरी है. So changing environment की requirement. So we know everything changes. We know the situation change, people change, the environment change, and we should be in position to adapt to that change. So principles are general guidelines, no doubt, but these principles get changed or little bit modified to meet the changing requirement. So we have seen the elements of principles, that they should be flexible and they should adapt to the new dynamic situation. So whenever new changes are coming, new things are coming, these principles should be such that we are adapting to those situations. So right, so the business real world situation, real business world situation is a dynamic, so we should be adapting to that. Fulfilling social responsibilities. Yes, now any business domain or any organization has a social responsibilities, and these principles tell you about that responsibility. So if there is a big organization making big profit, then there's a term called corporate social responsibility, which is the ethical responsibility of the organization, and organization should fulfill those responsibilities. So those things are part of fulfillment of social responsibilities. So this is also ethical principle of organization to fulfill those responsibilities. Management training, education, research. Principle of management are basically core of management theory. So what do you study in the class of MBA? In the class of MBA, you do education, research, training only. That is what you are doing, studying management theory. They are the basically tools to get trained, to get education, to do research. Professional course like MBA also teach these principles as part of their curriculum, like operation research, just in time. ये सारे के सारा क्या है? Business principles है. When you say Kaizen, continuous improvement. In the organization, there should always be continuous improvement. So if there is a continuous improvement in the organization, then organization is going forward. Quality circle, group of people should come together and discuss about their work. मैनेजमेंट प्रिंसिपल. तो ये एक थ्योरी है जिससे आप कंटिन्यूअसली एजुकेट करते हैं, ट्रेन करते हैं और रिसर्च भी करते हैं. तो मैनेजमेंट एक आपका वो डोमेन है. तो क्या सिग्निफिकेंस है प्रिंसिपल ऑफ मैनेजमेंट के? आपको इसमें यूजफुल इंसाइट मिलती है, ऑप्टिमम यूज करते हो आप रिसोर्स का, साइंटिफिक डिसीजन लेते हो, चेंजिंग एनवायरनमेंट को अडेप्ट करते हो, और कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फुलफिल करते हो. तो ये दिस आर द सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ दैट. सो फ्रेंड्स, दीज टेबल्स विच आई गेव यू, 3 टेबल्स, आप इनको ढंग से करना, एंड देन दीज आर द क्वेश्चंस जो इस पर्टिकुलर पार्ट पे आप क्वेश्चंस करोगे। तो जनरल प्रिंसिपल ऑफ बिजनेस मैनेजमेंट, ये बहुत ही सिंपल टॉपिक है इसमें से, लेकिन आपके 12 क्वेश्चंस, 12 मार्क्स इसमें से आएंगे, एंड दिस विल डिसाइड योर सिलेक्शन इन ऑपरेशंस। थैंक यू।